All right, well, made some changes this year for 2020. My dad and I have been talking about buying a new tractor for a while. And our budget was about 15 grand, and we had a few parameters. One was we wanted a loader. We wanted it to be about 80 to 110 horsepower, because if we hooked it up to a round baler, we figure if it had a little bit lesser horsepower than the 1486, which has about 140, if we had less horsepower, about 80 to 110, the round baler should choke down the tractor when it hits the rough stuff. Because what we had to happen is the tractor pulls so hard, the belts torque down and it starts to break stuff on the baler. So 80 to 110 horse, or 15 grand or less, 80 to 110 horsepower. We want a loader. If it had all-wheel drive, that'd be great, but not necessary. And a cab. Well, the cab would be good. So we've been doing some searching around, hemming and hawing. We looked at some stuff, and then, well, I got ambitious, and I saw something that I came across, so I was like, I'm just going to pull the trigger on this. And here it is. I'll show you what we're doing. What the hell? Okay, so not exactly what we originally anticipated. We have 105 bales on a pull type, and you can maybe go 12 to 15 miles per hour, tops. And I think I timed it where it's about 45 minutes for me to leave the shed, go to a field, grab 105 bales, come back, tip it underneath, and get out. So 45 minutes for 105 bales. This thing can go 30 to 40, maybe 50. And I say maybe, and I'll explain why here soon, maybe 50, but 30 or 40 is pushing it. Loaded, the max speed is about 35. So I'm going at least 2 or 3 times as fast on the road. And it grabs 160 bales in the same amount of time it takes me to grab 105, about 15 minutes. So let's do some math. If the thing is 105 miles, or if it's 1.5 miles away, and I can get there at 40 miles per hour, it shouldn't take me more than 2 or 3 minutes to get to the field, 15 minutes to grab 160, and then let's call it 3 or 4 minutes to get there, 3 or 4 minutes to get back. So we're talking about there and back, 8 minutes, round up 10, 15 to grab the 160, so we're at 25 minutes to get there and back with 100 or 160 bales. So 25 minutes, let's just easy math, let's call it a half hour. Let's say it's a half hour to get 160 bales. I can do 2 trips an hour, so you're talking 320 bales. 320 bales with this system. The pull type does 45 minutes, does 105 bales. So in an hour, you're talking about an extra 30 bales-ish, 33. So you're talking in 1 hour, you're averaging 138 bales per hour with the pull type to bring it back from the field further away. This thing's going to do 320. 133 versus 320, well, that's a pretty big difference. It's substantial mess. Like I said, 2 to 3x, 2 to 3 times more performance. And we're going to be putting up a building. So we're talking about increasing the number of square bales. My goal is to increase the number by 3,000. We did 5,200 last year. I want to be able to do over 8,000 this year. And every bale that's not round, or every little bit of hay that's not a round bale and turned into square bales, is probably 2.5 times more per ton on average. And I don't want to break it down now, but we're talking about 2.5 times more value per ton. That's why I'm getting something like this. It points us more towards squares, and round bales are still going to be an issue as far as how we handle them, how well we sell them, and we're going to get some wastage with them. But this should be it. So all that being said, I still have some anxieties about drive systems and just the mechanics of motors and drives. And I'm going to walk you guys around and ask some of your questions, because I assume a lot of you collectively have a lot more knowledge about this stuff than I do. And I'm starting to Google around and do all the little casual browsing to almost making purchases. And I'll show you where. Oh, but before we get into all that, let's go take it for a little quick test drive out in the field and just kind of look at how it operates. The truck's a little loud. I don't know how well you can see all the implements behind me. We're going to go through, use the throttle a little bit. I mostly just want to test out the bale operation procedure. I'm not too concerned about the instrument dash, because I got questions about those as far as like the propulsion or drive system. I'm more concerned right now for this moment is just kind of go through all the motions with these and see how it works as we drive through a field. Here we go. Let's give it a shot. Got my bar up here, so this is the safety for hydraulics. That has to go there. This is a throttle. Oh. Yep, see? Well, we'll try this again. I can actually pick up hay faster than this, so we'll do low in second. I want to be able to use the throttle, which the throttle's working. Okay, hydraulics are on. This is for the bale pickup. They go all the way down, drops the bale chute. That might be too fast. That's the bale chute. What's nice is you can set the depth of this bale chute. You don't have to drag it on the ground. The other ones, if you push down to run the pickup system, the chains, it drops it all the way down. This one, you can have it set a little bit off the ground and then run the bale pickup, which it's doing. I don't know if you can see that to the left of the screen, but the yellow chain on the bale chute is picking up. So that works well. I believe this is what they call the first table. You can manually trim the first table. This is the tier table. That's the tier table. Now it's springs that will bring the rack forward. I don't know how to make that come up faster yet. I don't know if that's comes up as you drive. I'm not sure. I'm not going to run the push-off sticks yet. That doesn't make sense to do it right now. But I'm pretty confident they work. This will raise and lower the rack. I'm not going to do that yet. I'll pick up tier table, automatic ties. You should see a spike come up in the corners of the tier table. Again, the tier table is the second table. The first, what I call the first table is that. First table, tier table. We're going to run the auto tie. So what happens, those pick the bales off, back onto the first table, and then you stab the bales. That's get good. Alright, so there you go. And then I got another trip there, so when I get two more bales, this will it should pick up two like that, and then the two that are up will swing out like that, and then two will go up in the middle. And you do that a couple times, and you build your tie layer. And then when you're done with your tie layer, once it goes up, push that down. Now I'm hesitating because this is the first time I'm really doing this, and you're using a whole new set of like muscle memory. It's easier to bridge from a pole type to this than to have never done a bale wagon before. If you've never operated a bale wagon, this will be a big leap. But if you've gone from a pull type to a self-propelled, this might not be so bad. I'm a little concerned that my rack isn't all the way forward. I wonder if it's done manually. We had a 2-wide bale wagon before, sorry about the wind, where you'd actually, it was spring loaded as well, but you'd have to go, whoa, you'd have to go do it manually. The springs are supposed to bring it up. Other systems will use a hydraulic cylinder, and I don't know which one I prefer yet. This is, and I could be doing it wrong, because the 2-wide we would do it manually, then we found out it would roll up on its own as you drove down the road. So I might prefer the springs, because if it's the hydraulic system, if it was hydraulics, you have one more thing that could fail or break, and if it breaks, then you have a real problem. This way, the springs, you can always do it manually. Okay. Hydraulics on, again, the safety feature. This has to be up before you can turn your hydraulics on. So if you leave the cab, your hydraulics are always off, or they should be. This is a good road speed, I think, for a moderate, amateur, beginner-ish. You know, I could, oh, that's hydraulics. Wrong one. This is the pickup. There's bales every 2 feet, because our first cut's usually really thick, so you're picking up hay a lot, or a lot of hay quick. It's probably, you know, pick 1, 2, 3, about that fast on the first cut. The second cut gets a little thinner. The turnaround might get interesting. Yeah, this is too small of a field for it. We have bigger fields though. That's going to take getting used to. I keep hitting hydraulics instead of the bale pickup. Yeah, a little rusty. This is actually really fast for ground speed. For first cut, this will be too fast. When they're farther apart on the second cut, this will be a reasonable speed. Goes up. Go with that rack all the way forward. I'm not going to put the bed all the way up. We know it works. Alright, so let's pretend our bale wagon is full. We want to bring the bale pickup up. I want to weld a chain right here and a link right here. If I have a link here as it goes down, it shouldn't hit anything on the bale wagon. And I can just keep the chain and hook it up. Otherwise, the cylinder will collapse. Don't need the hydraulics on. We're gonna go park it. There's something I think you might want to know about these as well. you're going to feel naturally inclined to step here and walk up. Don't jump off. Ah! Ah! I think that'll do things to you that you didn't think you'd ever want to do in your lifetime. So, maybe that should be the best way to get on and off. Woo! I'm not brave enough for that. Okay, when you're working with these things first, when this table is up, this bar has to be here. There's a little bracket here that catches this. So if the hydraulics start to lower it, I won't get squeezed to death between this and the tire. These are not super single tires per se. They, I had the measurements. They were, let's see, where's those numbers? Now, 8-ply. They're Firestone tubeless tires. Max speed is 30 miles per hour. I think that some people go a little faster. It's like 36, 16 and a half to 36, 16 to 17 and a half, I think. And you're probably noticing there's a little bit of wear here. Well, this matches the wear spot on this steer rod over there. So I think if you turn too sharp, it'll rub. Oh well, but that's not really my concern. I kind of know what I'm going to do if I have to replace those, as far as like what their cost is going to be. One of my reservations was about, with these things, you're looking at probably $800 per tire for the front, and then the back, the tires are $2,000 a piece. But this one was converted to duals, truck duals, which was a selling point for me, because now if they ever get a blowout, it's easier to find replacements for those, because most people will keep that kind of stuff in stock. My question for you guys though is, like, all the wiring. This comes from like the 1970s era, so you don't have those traditional cartridges you find in cars. I don't see a fuse box anywhere or anything that you want to mess with wiring. I'm tempted to like buy a book on automotive wiring and just install a fuse box myself with a, just a bank of cartridges. Something so I can mount it around here somewhere. There's a lot of room. One of the good things about this is, once you get this table up, it's actually really easy to get to stuff. It's super simple to work on, sort of. But again, then, me working with motors, that's not my forte. I really shouldn't be doing that. But I think I can learn wiring. So if you guys have recommendations as far as like, here's a good manual, here's a good product if you want to add cartridges or relays, possibly relays as well as the fuses. If you have something you want to recommend in that terms, certainly put them in the comments, because I'll probably put, if not a few, maybe I'll put a fuse box up in the cab. I'm not entirely sure. And I'll know more as I learn more. I'm probably revealing my ignorance on this, and feel free to expose it where necessary, because I feel like a lot of this has to change, and that's because, I'll show you something else. When I took this for initial test drive, like, all the essential lights worked. There's some clearance lights back on the bed that were just clipped off. They're not going to work, but maybe I can wire them up later. But you had a work light here that worked, headlights, signals, and then for whatever reason, now that I got it home, all that stuff stopped working. That should be headlights, that should be work lights, and this should be signals. Signals like this little stupid box here. And none of it's on. No work lights or nothing. These are like, I think, looks like original lights. I would, if you have a good recommendation for like a nice low wattage, wide angle or wide degree flood light, LED for here, that'd be great, because I'd make it so I can see the bales. Maybe even change headlights. And then I'll show you one more other spot. So then I have a work light here that's going to look at the first table and the tier table. Like I said, the tier table is the table that the GoPro is attached to right now. It is in the up position. So this light will show me first table, interior table, and the stuff that's already put up against the bed, back to the bed. So I need to wire in new lights there. I don't know how much I'm going to be working at night, but if I have to, it'd be nice to have lights ready to go. Okay, so that was one of the questions I had, or 2 or 3 of the questions I had. Recommendations for adding fuses and relays boxes. What product you think is really good. Recommended floodlights. I know there's some really expensive like brand name floodlights, but I don't want the Chinese knockoffs either, because I've seen Amazon is one of those things where it could be like a pretty wide range of what quality you're going to get. But if it's not on Amazon, maybe it's on a different website, feel free to let me know. Something that's reasonable priced. I don't want to spend, you know, $90 for one little 4-inch floodlight. Something like half that or less. I think that's what's happening. I think when I say anything that sounds like the R word, that means to start saving video, the GoPro shuts off. So I gotta shut off the voice activation, whatever. Okay. So I'm gonna try to say not anything that sounds like the R word, or start or stop. Okay, still going. Okay. Okay, what I was explaining or asking you guys was maybe if you have a recommended fuse box, and perhaps none of these recommendations come from Amazon. That's fine. If there's a website where you're like, hey, this is the website to go for automotive wiring, or this is the website to go for lighting, or anything like that, I'm open to hear it. But let's say I get a fuse box with a couple fuses and relays in case I need them, and then I put them here. Like there's room in this area that I can run it, or even underneath here, I think. But there's like this rat's nest of stuff, and like these lights that did work on the way back are not working now. So I don't know what happened or where the problem occurred. So part of me wants to start over. If you have a recommendation for a turn signal, I'd probably be open to that, because I'm not a big fan of this one either. All reasonably cheap. I'm not looking to spend like thousands of dollars on this. Like if you could replace this for $40, great. Maybe I'll put in some rocker switches for the lights for, you know, a pack of switches that might be $20 or $30. And I don't know. Oh, and a tachometer. I want to add a tachometer. The oil pressure gauge I kind of trust, because it looks like it'll move. This works. The amps and the coolant level, that works. Speedometer works. Fuel gauge works. But I'd like to add a tachometer. If there's a tachometer you would recommend for a Ford 361 V8 gas engine, I'm open to hearing it. I think when I was Googling about this, something in the 5,000 RPM range, I believe, would be what I'm looking for, but I'm not sure. And I was told by a friend that tachometers are not hard to install, particularly with something like this where everything's fairly accessible. And then anything that you would recommend to dress cables, if I run some wiring through underneath here. I was thinking if I were to improvise something, I'd get PEX pipe and just mount the PEX pipe against the wall and then hang wires in that so it doesn't sag down by these controls or by my feet. And maybe I'll put a fuse box there if that's easier, or over here. Maybe even over here, that's accessible. Depending on how I want to run wire. Nothing can go through here, obviously. A couple more things. Cabcams, cab cameras. I was thinking about putting a camera up here because, and maybe you've used bale wagons, let me know if this is a good idea. This is not the building that I'm going to be storing the hay with this thing. I can get a pole type to put hay up in here, but not this. This is way too short. The top of that yellow bar, I don't know if you can see it, that's 13.5 foot. That's pretty tall. But what I'd like to do, I got to get up there. Let's see how well I can do this. Okay, like I said, that needs to be there whenever you're here with the table up. All right, here we go. I would like to put a cab cam right here in this area. On the other side of this shield, I can mount it. I think that's sturdy. I can run wire in between there. And the reason why, there's a huge blind side, and when I'm coming off the highway, I have to make a left-hand turn, and it'll be hard to look behind you and to the left. And what happens is you might be thinking, oh, put a mirror. I'll show you something else. Get a good spot for the mirror. Then you can see down, because the cab sits more to the left anyway. So a truck mirror right here would show me traffic coming up on my left side, because I don't want to be making a left-hand turn and someone wants to pass the slow farm vehicle and then I get caught on the left side on the highway. So I'd like to be able to see down that way without having to turn right off the highway and then kind of use the opposite side road to kind of loop around and then look. Now I can't go here because that won't work. Unless I put a mirror up here, guess that could work. But if you guys have recommendations for cameras, possibly wireless ones. Now Cabcam is a brand name. That's about 350 bucks just for one camera kit to get started. Now I've looked on Amazon, which I'm hesitant about, because the knockoffs on Amazon, you don't know what you're going to get. It could be some cheap ripoff from China. And sometimes lesser quality stuff from China may work. Other times you'll get absolute garbage. So if you have recommendations in that aspect, even if it's like, hey, just spend the money on the right stuff and get the Cabcam, I'll go that route. But I'd like to put one up there. Plus it'll give me an idea of clearance, being able to see that way. And then the last question, actually I have a lot of questions, but last one and then we're done. So this is the splitter. I put a voltmeter here. When I turned it up to high range, I did get 12 volts right here. There's a contact on the other side. I did get 12 volts there, but it's not engaging. So I don't know what's going on inside here. I assume this plug was there to check fluid levels, because when you take it out, there's a little bit of fluid that comes out and it didn't look too dirty. I checked the fluid levels on the differential. It's on the back side. You take a little plug out, and the fluid level is right up to the halfway mark, or like you can get your finger in there a little bit and there's fluid there. It's kind of cloudy and yucky looking, so it probably needs to be changed, because who knows when it's been changed last. But it's not low on fluid, it's just got dirty fluid. On the differential, this stuff I thought was okay. So my question is, if there's 12 volts here and it's not engaging, do I have to replace this whole mechanism to get it to go back in high range, or can I take this apart? And will there be something obvious that's wrong with it inside, you know, this or here, or even this part there? Because opening up some of that stuff, I'm going to lose fluid that I'll have to put back. So I'm trying to avoid that. And I'm just guessing. And whenever I do that kind of exploratory stuff and I start guessing, I usually regret it. So anyway, so I have a leak. I don't know how bad it is to have a leak on a differential. Actually, there's a few leaks on this truck all around. I saw some spots where there's hydraulic drips, not drips, but seepage somewhere. And part of me starts to think, well, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have bought it. But at the same time, every piece of equipment we have seems to have some sort of leak on it, and it's not always up to snuff. But they still keep going if you keep the fluids in. And we're not losing so much fluid that it's like cost prohibitive, like with hydraulic leaks at 10 bucks a gallon. We're not losing a lot on the other vehicles. And I'm not sure how bad it is with this. I've checked all the fluid levels for the hydraulics and oil and coolant and that stuff. They seem fine. Even after I drove it home, less than 200 miles, drove it home, and it seems okay. It's spitting out some stuff though. So anyway, that was the last one to show you guys. I'm going to get this thing posted online and get ready for work tomorrow. And then, yeah, that's, oh, it's still upside down. There we go. So that's the bale wagon. Oh, and I think the muffler, I parked on a tarp, so if I took anything off and dropped it, it didn't fall into dirt. We got a dirt floor shed. But it looked like it spit some oil on the tarp out of the exhaust when I parked it. I don't know how concerned I should be about that. I'll have to watch the oil level. So yeah, if any of that seems like your area of expertise, you have a recommendation, feel free to let me know in the comments. And I'll keep you guys posted about 2020 hay season because I'm pretty excited. This could be a good jump for us. All right, have a good one. And I'll say see you next time, but I don't know how often I'll post. So who knows when next time will be. But have a good one.